is Show and Tell with Kristin Shaw, and we are in Seattle. I'm with one of my favorite people, Forrest Swonsen from TransCore.
Hi, good to see you. How are you?
Good.
It's a great conference, isn't it?
It always is. Can't believe how many years we've been doing this.
Yeah, it's been a couple.
A couple.
A couple.
So let's talk about TransCore. What is new? What's happening?
So, well, you know, our whole background is intelligent transportation and trying to get things more efficient. So it's a good time to be in this industry. From an aviation standpoint, we're seeing a couple of big trends happening. I mean, obviously, one of the big things that everybody's aware of is if you have like a toll transponder, you use it to pay for parking. We've been doing that for years. But what we're finding now is leveraging new technology to help airports understand how the roadway's working, right? Because as people start coming back to fly, you have a lot more privately owned vehicles clogging up the roadway. You know, whether it's Uber, Lyft, or just people dropping off or meeting and greeting, they're not parking, they're coming and going. So the roads are really busy. So one of the challenges some of our airports are asking us to do is to help them understand what that looks like, when are the peaks and valleys, what kind of vehicles are clogging their roadway, and kind of, you know, what speed are they moving at, and that's going to help them understand how to be more efficient, figure out whether they need to fix their roadway, figure out if they need to start charging people for doing it to change behavior, which is something, as you know, LAX is thinking about doing sooner or later. So that seems to be the big dynamic. And then taking all that data, because it's a lot of information, and making it meaningful through analytics to the airport so they can start making some good choices about what to do.
I feel like everybody I'm talking to right now is data, data, data. And, you know, big data has been a theme for many years now.
Yeah.
Like, more so than ever. It seems like people are really getting down into the details about what's happening at airports and how they can make it better by looking at the tiniest details.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting. I think because analytics, the more you do them, the more you understand how valuable they are and what they can and can't do for you. And so I think, you know, airports are beginning to understand what data is valuable, because like we said, a lot of data is just a lot of data. It's if it's meaningful. So can you tie together your airport operational database and your parking system and your ground transportation system to get a bigger picture of what's going on from a planning standpoint? Because I don't really think anybody expected travel to come back after the pandemic as fast as it is.
It's booming.
Right, well, we know that because there's not enough airplanes, there's not enough pilots, right? And we're seeing that on land side too. There are not enough Ubers and Lyft drivers, right? They all stopped doing that and went to DoorDash or went to do something else in the gig economy. And so now, you know, we just talked with somebody from Lyft a little while ago, and they were telling me that they're having a lot of problems getting drivers back. And it's just, so all of those things combine to get a bigger picture of what's happening. And hopefully in the next 6 months, as this trend sustains itself from a transportation perspective, we're going to kind of get back to whatever the new normal is. I don't think we know what that is yet.
No,
but we're going to need the
not.
analytics to do that, right?
Well, in the last few years, I've definitely written about companies like Uber and Lyft and how airports are managing that congestion that those bring, and then how to charge them. And
yeah.
You know, so are you seeing any different directions on that now that on the other side of the pandemic?
That's a good question. So one of the things that we're learning, I think we always knew this, but I think we know it now, is airport real estate is super valuable. It's a precious resource and it's finite. Every airport's landlocked for the most part, so they have to look at ways to do more with what they've got. I mean, you look at what Miami's doing, the 9 new gates with American Airlines, and they're bulldozing their taxi whole lot to be able to get that. San Diego, you guys just wrote an article about their virtual taxi dispatch system. And that's the other thing that I think we're going to see is more reliance on app-based technology, virtual technology, and not as much physical infrastructure. And that's happening right now in Philadelphia, for example. Uber and Lyft actually go through an access control system to get into their lot to be able to service people. So I think all that's kind of changing to a degree.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I think airports are going to have to figure out how to pivot in some cases, you know, with the way things are different now.
Yeah, I mean, I think we learned a lot. I think we learned how to be more efficient. It's not going to be the same, but it's probably going to be better in the long run, I think. You know, because you remember this, 3 years ago we were talking about we don't need parking decks anymore, right? What are we going to do with all these empty parking decks? And guess what? Now every parking deck is full. Right? Every parking deck is full.
Everybody wants to drive themselves now. Right?
Yeah, and it's more efficient, and and that creates all kinds of unanticipated problems. Like when we first talked, about congestion. What does the congestion look like? Is it commercial vehicles? Is it privately operated? And that's kind of going to be an ongoing thing that's going to help airports, optimize their roadway. Because in a lot of cases, they can't build more roadways. They've got to deal with what they've got.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting because, predicting what airports are going to do next is big business, right? Everybody counts on looking 10, 20 years in the future to see what's going to happen. I think what we've learned over the last couple of years is there's anything goes, right?
Maybe 2 or 3 years is pretty good. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you do your best, and you're going to miss the mark. But if you have a lot of good information, data is not valuable unless it's the right data when you need it. Then I think it gives airports an opportunity to plan better and to make. Because you're right, the problem is you've got to budget and forecast and build 20 years out infrastructure, but you may not know how that's going to be utilized any more than 2 or 3 years out. Do you make the right decision or don't? That was, if you remember after 9/11, that was the big thing at DFW Airport. Do we build Terminal D or don't we? And, at the time, Jeff Fagan, who was the director there, made what I thought was a wise decision. He said, we build it now because they're going to come back, and it's never going to be cheaper than it is right now.
Oh, that was a smart move.
It was a smart move, and now they're getting ready to build their, 5th or 6th terminal there? So
right.
It's crazy, but yeah. So things are always changing. It's a fun and exciting industry to be in, and we got 2,000 people here or something like that. It's amazing.
It's picked up.
Conferences are back. That's a good thing.
Final point, what do you want people to know about TransCore that they might not know?
Probably that more than just tags and readers, we have the ability to be able to help you manage your roadway and get meaningful information about it so that you can make good decisions going forward in the future.
Sounds like a good idea.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Forrest.
Thanks, Kristin. So it's good to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Okay.